Okay, for today's lesson, we are going to be working with Artboards. So you're going to have to go to the module for lesson 2 and download the needed file. Once you've downloaded it, you're going to come back here and go to Open, find where you saved it to, select it, and click on Open. Now, we're going to make this so we can see everything on the screen. So you're going to go up to Window and down to View All in Window. That's going to just put the artboard in there. We want to see a little bit more, so we're going to zoom out, which is Control-. Now you should be able to see everything that's in this document. So you should have one artboard, which is the square on the top, and then multiple images. Now, when you're working in Illustrator, if you're working on something, this is a good way to kind of like create things and have them saved, or if you've created them in other files, and you can have them saved on the same workspace so that you can just add and move them around as necessary. Okay, so when it comes to Illustrator, artboards are kind of like thinking about this in the terms of having multiple sheets of paper that you're working on all at the same time. So, if you're creating a brochure, which we're kind of doing today, we're going to make kind of a fold brochure that would have 2 flaps on the front and kind of open, so almost like an invitation even. You can have something like that. We're going to create the 2 folds for the front. If you had a brochure that had like a front and back and inside, you could do 3 pieces of paper for that or 2 pieces of paper for that. Anything like that. So you're just going to think about these artboards as multiple sheets of paper or multiple sides to a piece of paper. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start creating some new artboards. So over here on your right hand side, you should have the properties panel. If you cannot find the properties panel, it might be one of the other tabs, or you can go up to Window and choose Properties right here and open that panel up. Okay, in this new panel, you're going to see some basics right now, and as we start working on them, this panel will change depending on where we need to be in the panel. So right now we want to be in the Properties panel under Document, which is this top little section right here. And we're going to click, and what it tells you about is right now, we're working in inches. If you're not, go ahead and do a drop down and change that to inches. That we are working with one artboard currently. And then it also shows things like rulers and grids, guides, snap options, which we'll get into later in the quarter. So under this document header, we want to do Edit Artboards. So just click the little button. Okay, so here it's going to show the size of our artboard. It's going to show the X and Y axis. This little box right here with the little boxes around it, this is going to show where your transform point is. So right now our transform point is in the center, and it's at 3.5 inches by 4 inches. So if you went over here and you went, down, it's right here. Okay. We're going to talk about that in just a couple of minutes and making adjustments to it. Here is your width and your height. So we're at 7 by 8 inches. The next section of the panel down is the actual artboard. Now where it says name, right now it says Artboard 1. At some point, if you wanted to change the name, you could change it right here. We're going to change it a different way in a second. And then you can also have presets, and this is where you can change all of your presets. So if you wanted a specific size that we hadn't already set, or if you wanted to change the direction of it to make it portrait or landscape layout, you can do that here as well. We're going to use this area right here right now to, after Artboard 1, there is a plus sign with a little square around it. We're going to click on that. You can see now over on your workspace, there's a new artboard. It's called Artboard 2. You should be able to see the name up in the top corner of it in a little blue box. And we're going to change the size of this artboard. So we're going to just, with it being selected, you can see the blue line around it, the blue and the dotted white line around it. We're going to come over to the properties panel and change our width to 3.5. Oops. I'm going to hit tab and go down to my height and make sure my height is at 6 inches. Okay, we're going to leave the name at Artboard 2 and we're going to come up here to the exit and select it. Okay, now you can see that the properties panel is back to its normal self. And if you grab onto your selection tool, which is the black arrow in your toolbar, you can go back and forth between the two artboards. Okay, now we're going to create a copy of an artboard. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go back up to Edit Artboards under a document and click on the little button. Okay, now because whenever you have an artboard that you already have selected, we had 2 selected because that was the last one we created. If you come up here, you'll see it says Artboard 2, and if you try to make a new copy, it's automatically going to copy the last one you did. So if we click right here on the square with the plus sign, you'll see that it made us an exact copy. Now, if for some reason you slipped and you did it twice, and you needed to get rid of this Artboard 4, all you would have to do with it being selected is come over here to the trash can and click on it, and it just simply deletes it. So just like many other Adobe programs, trash can means delete. Now I'm going to come up to Window. Sorry, View. I'm going to come up to View and Fit All in Window. Now it's going to show us our 3 artboards. And in the Properties panel, I'm going to hit Exit. Okay, so there are multiple ways of editing an artboard. Like I showed you just now, if you're in here and you want to edit one of your artboards, you can come over here simply and go to Edit Artboard again and click the button. You can make changes to it. You can select the different artboards so you can change between them if you wanted to. You can change the size, you can change the positioning of them, you can change the name of them, you can change the presets. You can do all of that in here. But just like every Adobe program, there's a lot of different ways of doing it. So I'm going to show you another way of doing it that's not quite as obvious. So I'm going to exit back out of here, and I'm going to Control minus and zoom out a little bit so I can see a little bit more. And we're going to move this Artboard 3, and we're also going to rename it. So I'm going to slide my screen over so it makes sense. The Artboard tool looks kind of like a little square folded piece of paper over on your toolbar with 2 little fishtails coming out of the side of it. If you have a double toolbar, it's right on the left-hand side down towards the bottom. And if you have a single toolbar, it's way down here on the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to click on it. And we're going to reposition this one. So simply by clicking on that Artboard tool, I can now slide this one over, and I'm just going to slide it on this side. Now, to keep everything even or straight or that type of stuff, there are tools that can do that for you as well. We're not going to go over those tonight for this lesson, but we will talk about them later on using the align tools and also using grid tools to be able to keep everything even for all of you that like everything to be precise. Okay, so I said you can come over here and you can change the size and everything of the image that you're working on, or of the artboard that you're working on, but you can also do using the bounding points on the art box. So you have the corner bounding points and you have the side ones. We're going to take this bottom one, which is currently at 6 inches, and we're going to drag it down. Now, as I'm dragging, you can see the numbers next to my cursor. And I can change it to 8. Now, I will be honest with you, I don't usually do it this way. I don't like, as you can see, it's really hard sometimes to get it right to the exact. Most of the time, I will come over here and just change it in the properties panel. Okay, so now we have it at 8 inches, and I'm just going to drag it up here, kind of line it up the best I can. Whoops. I'm going to drag it up and line it up the best I can. It's selecting my artwork below, but that's okay. We're going to fix that anyway. And then I'm going to select Artboard 2, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to change it to 8 inches as well. And again, I'm just going to change it in the Properties panel. It's a lot faster for me. And then click on the word Exit whenever you have them changed. Okay, the next thing I want to do is show you another way to rename the artboards and to reorder them if you so choose. So in the panels bar, you can get to your artboards over here, or you can come up to Window and Artboards, and see it's this little icon on the bottom of our Properties panel. If you're in the same same workspace as I am, but you can always go to Window and Artboards and open it up, and it'll pop out. And we're going to rename these. So Artboard 1, we want to change the name to Inside. So just click on it and then double click on the actual words themselves and type Inside and hit the Enter key. Okay, Artboard 2, we're going to change the name Back. And Artboard 3, we're going to change to Inside. And you can see as we're clicking on these, if we double click on them, they will send us to that artboard, which is kind of nice when you're working on something. You can just click back and forth. You can also pick your artboard down here based on the bottom corner, based on which artboard it's numbered. So you can see this is considered artboard 1, 2, 3, and they're right down here. And you can do a drop down screen and change it back and forth quickly as well. Now, just like with layers in Photoshop or layers in Illustrator, you can reorder these to put them in a very specific order so you can like know which one's which. Right now, our artboard 3 is our inside. That would make more sense to be in the middle. Oh, I renamed these incorrectly, sorry. Number 3 should be front. Let's fix that real quick. It would make sense for our artboard inside to be in the middle. So we're going to click on the one that we just renamed front and drag it to the top. So now front is artboard 1, inside is artboard 2, and back is inside 3. Or back is artboard 3. Okay, so I'm going to zoom, actually let's go up to view and go back to fit all in window. You should be able to see all 3 of the artboards again. And now we want to make sure that our rulers are showing. So my rulers are already showing. Yours might be as well, but we'll go up here and do this just so that you know where it's at. And you're going to go to View, and Rulers right here. And if I was to go in here right now, it tells me to hide them. If yours rulers aren't showing, it'll say Show Rulers right here, and you just click on it. Now, there are two different types of rulers that you can use. The first one is called a global ruler. So you can see on my screen right here, it says change to global ruler. If I do that, then what it does is that it would be 0 to whatever, and it would never adjust, and it would be the same for all of these. So if I was to click on it, you can see my 0 starts right here, my 0 starts right there, because this was where this piece was put first. And then you can see that this item starts at 9. And this item starts over here at like 6.5. So that's helpful when you're doing certain layouts. Other times you're going to want something where each of the different documents will start at the same number. So I always come down here and go to Rulers and change to Artboard Rulers. That means the ruler is going to apply for each separate artboard. So I'm going to click on that. Then if you select your different artboards, you can see if I click on my front artboard, 0, 0 is at the top left of that one. But when I select the inside artboard, now 0, 0 is there. And if I select the back one, 0, 0 is actually right here. So it just helps you with measuring. Okay, so we're gonna now do some positioning of items so you can see how to do it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to zoom out 3 times. So Control minus, so that we can see everything that we're working on. Control minus out 3 times. And we're going to start working with the front artboard. So I'm going to select my front artboard. I'm just going to click on it. That way my board is active. Okay. And I'm going to make sure that because we move this one, just in case, I'm going to actually zoom in one more time so we can see it a little bit better. Just because we moved it, I want to make sure that this top corner is at 0, 0 now. So I'm going to drag right here, right up in the corner of my rulers, and I'm going to pull these 2 little bitty faint dotted lines down and line them up right at the top corner of that box. That's just giving myself a safety net. And you can go ahead and you can do that for all of them. Just double check them to make sure they're all going to read that way when we get to them. And then I'm going to go back and select my first artboard again, my front artboard. And I want to move this illustration right here called number 1. I want to move this onto here. And the easiest way to do that is I'm just going to select it with my selection tool. So the top left tool is my selection tool. And I'm just going to click on it. Now, all of this is kind of linked together in its layer. So clicking one place on it will select the entire thing. And then I can come up here to my properties panel, and where it says my X and my Y, I can simply change them to 0. So by changing my X and Y, it should now line that up on my box. And we're going to do the same thing for the back. So I'm going to select my back artboard, and then I'm going to select the image behind the number 6. And again, change my X to 0 and my Y to 0. Okay, now your job to finish out this assignment is going to be to move images 2, 3, 4, and 5 and put them on here in some way. You get to decorate it however you want. You can also move any of the things that are on here already. So there's already, you know, this basketball net, but this is in multiple pieces, so you'd have to move it in multiple pieces. You can move the text around a little bit if you want by selecting it and moving it. Okay. And then any of these things right here you can move. So go ahead and decorate it. When you're pause the video, decorate the way you want, and then when you're done, you're going to come back and you're going to save this. So what I want you to do to save it is you'll go up to File and Save As, and you're going to save this as your last name _ lesson 2. And go ahead and save it as an Adobe Illustrator file and hit save. Now, like we kind of brushed on a little bit in that first class, we did not add any outside effects into this, so there's no extra files, so like images or anything of that nature. So you can go ahead and turn in this AI file and everything would be okay. If we had added images in, then I would have you go back a second time and do File and Save As. And instead of the Adobe Illustrator, you would change it to Adobe PDF. And then save that. And turn that in. But for this lesson, we didn't do that, so feel free to turn in the Illustrator file. Like I said in class, I suggest having this done before next class. That way, if you have any questions, we can go over them. Otherwise, just kind of play with it, move stuff around, and see what you can create.